Welcome to Cody in the Cinema. Today I'm discussing my top 10, personal top 10 favorite directors, and I wanted to do this based on my personal preference. These directors have had the most films that have been the most important to me and the most special to me specifically. And I'm so excited to talk about these because I tried to make this list more about probably what it sounds like should be the top 10. No. These are just the ones that I like the best. So there will be obviously familiar names in here, but I'm curious to know in the comments what your personal top 10 is. Not what you think it should sound like, but your actual favorite top 10. And for me, number 10, who this director will be higher on some of your list, Akira Kurosawa. And I've picked out one of my favorite films of his here, Stray Dog, as an example. Kurosawa was one of the best masters of using the visual space within a frame, great at blocking, great at everything, samurai films, Seven Samurai. And I just watched The Hidden Fortress, absolutely loved it. Folks are still sleeping on that movie, and this thing right here is coming to the Criterion Collection. I'm so happy that Stray Dog, one of his early works with a younger Toshiro Mifune, is coming to the Criterion Collection. And if you see this later on, maybe it'll already be in the collection, and you should buy it, and you should be excited for it, because Akira Kurosawa, here's a guy who George Lucas and Coppola and those guys, they helped him get together Kagemusha, another great film. Just a terrific director. Akira Kurosawa has meant quite a bit to me over the years, especially with films like Throne of Blood, the Shakespeare adaptation. I love Akira Kurosawa. Number 10. He might be number 1 on your list. I'm not sure. Where do you put Kurosawa? I love Kurosawa. But I'm not as personally attached to his films as the others on this in this pile, okay? A filmmaker I really fell in love with a few years ago, and I continue to go through her films, and they continue to have such a deep meaning and impact for me, is this director who Sight and Sound Poll really made her popular, and so is the Criterion Collection, Chantal Akerman. Her images are stunning and beautiful, and she is the director of Jean Demon, which won like the number 1 Sight and Sound Poll film, I think in the 2002 poll. Also, she has News from Home. Love that. There's a few others on here that I like as well. Most of this that I've watched, I've really liked. I think it's like 4 or 5 films I've really liked. There's another volume 2 from BFI I have over there. Her images, like especially that one, the longer film, gosh, they just stick in your head. It's such a unique style of imagery, such an impactful, like, gosh, some of those shots of the city at night, it blows me away. No one could do the city at night like this woman here. Just gorgeous cinematography. The kind of images that just stay with you long after you watch it. And that's why I wanted to do this list, because I want to get somebody excited for one of these directors. Chantal Akerman. Did she make your top 10? I don't know. I mean, she's a relatively recent kind of director that maybe isn't on everybody's radar. But you know who is on a lot of people's radar? And who has been living rent-free in my head, particularly lately. This is a director who I'm sure might even climb a little higher over time. Number 8, David Lynch, folks. I did not used to be a David Lynch person. First time I watched Blue Velvet, didn't love it, not going to lie. But over this last year or so, I've been really watching his films. I watched Inland Empire, a few others. I rewatched Blue Velvet, really liked it. And I guess I really do like it because some of the more popular videos for my channel have been the David Lynch playlist. I mean, like, the guy just dissected the dream and the nightmare, like, so perfectly. And I don't know why. I don't know what happened. But for whatever reason, this film, which I saw last summer for the first time, has been in my head for about the last 2.5 days. Don't know why. Maybe it's because it's really good. By the way, Lost Highway, I'm a huge fan of that film. I know that film's kind of divisive. Love everything about it. Bill Pullman, gosh, did anyone ever have a vision quite like the surreal awesomeness of David Lynch? My guess is no. He played John Ford once. That's how I ended up originally looking into David Lynch. Was that he played John Ford because Laura Dern told him, "Hey, you got to accept this part." All right, that was 10, 9, 8, 7. Another relatively, I hadn't known a lot about this director. I think the first film I watched of his was Werckmeister Harmonies, and I have a copy of Satan Tango here. Folks, Bela Tarr, number 7. If you have not watched a Bela Tarr film, you're going to hear they're slow. They're slow moving. This thing's like 7.5 hours. I did a whole video on why I think it's worth it. I even have somewhere up there, I have the Curzon set, where I just talk about, it's just all of his films. If you have not watched Bela Tarr, this cinematography, these images are so striking, so stunning, so pure, so beautiful, that you literally don't want to look away from the screen, and you can't anyway because there's such long takes. Watch Bela Tarr right now. Please. Set aside a day when you're off. Watch Satan Tango, even if you can't watch it all in one sitting. I can't, but do it. And then Werckmeister Harmonies is in the Criterion Collection. It's awesome. Great films. Damnation's my favorite. I'd be curious, those of you that love Bela Tarr. I love Damnation. I love just the atmosphere and the music. I think it's just such a touching film. Such a funny film. Shouldn't be that funny. Bela Tarr had a great sense of humor. Great sense of humor. But someone I've liked even longer. French director. Again, kind of a divisive director. But I just watched Lancelot of Blake. Really enjoyed that. And here's an example of a film from Robert Bresson. This is L'Argent. Energetic, enigmatic indictment of capitalism. L'Argent. Alazar Balthazar. Moschette. Here's a guy who could take, he could take shots of people exchanging money with their hands. In Lancelot of the Lake, it's like he'll have like shots of people with like their armor on their legs. Incredible. And then Balthazar, like he's just following around a donkey, and you're mesmerized by it. You're so invested in what happens to this creature because he's such a good filmmaker and he knows how to draw you into almost any subject. Diary of a Country Priest. If you ask me, Cody in the Cinema, what is the one film that used to be in DVD and you want it back and you want a 4K, it would be Diary of a Country Priest. Man Escaped. I mean, if you love prison films and you haven't seen A Man Escaped, I'm telling you, you're missing out. Bresson was introduced to me by Ebert, and the first Bresson I watched was Pickpocket on a laptop. And I've got a copy over there now. I've seen it again on the big screen. Terrific film about a pickpocket. If you have the patience, guys like Bela Tarr, in this case, Robert Bresson, really worth your time. Okay? So that's my 10 through 6. Kurosawa, Chantal Akerman, David Lynch, Bela Tarr, Robert Bresson. Terrific directors. Now we're getting to my top 5, okay? This is where it got hard. Because I kind of had those down, and these I shifted all the way up to the video. But I think I've got what I want. I think this is the correct ranking for me. Now, number 5, and maybe I should be going a little higher than this. The guy who's on my poster back there, John Ford, who David Lynch played John Ford. See? I got a Searchers poster back there. This is one of my favorite covers, if not my favorite cover on a Criterion Stagecoach. 1939 invented the Western, basically, or reinvented it, or catapulted it to what it became. He is the guy that I think of when I think of beautiful, sprawling, epic shots of the West. And every year we travel, we go to places like Colorado, Wyoming. The Western, in what it represents, in the ideas of exploration mixed with chaos and conflict, those ideas appeal to me on a visceral level, on an existential level, however you want to say it. Like, it's just so impactful to me. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, the scene where John Wayne's watching that burning building, the Searchers, when he takes the shots at the guy to mess with the afterlife. Like, some of these images from John Ford, what Martin Scorsese had to say, it's just one of the actual real first Hollywood old school style director who had real grit and real heart in his films that I ever saw. I will never, ever, ever forget my first experiences with John Ford. And this was one of my favorite Christmas presents I ever got. I still remember it. I still remember getting it. I remember watching it. I probably watched this DVD 10 times. At least. It's great. Don't sleep on John Ford, okay? Please watch John Ford. And let me know if he's on your list or not. Maybe you don't like him. Maybe you think he's outdated. I'd be curious to hear. Number 4. Also Westerns, primarily. Because he has a smaller number of films, but because they're so impactful, particularly 2 of them, I did put Sergio Leone as my number 2 director, or 4. No, hold on, let me say that again. He's my number 4 director. Once Upon a Time in the West here is my favorite film. This is my favorite film I've ever watched. It has been my favorite film for a long time. Similarly, Once Upon a Time in America, one of the greatest, most underrated, and I know it's gotten the fanfare in the last 10, 20, 30 years, but Once Upon a Time in America stands up for me with Godfather, Goodfellas, any of that. And then, you have the Fistful of Dollars and all that stuff. Like, I know it's not the largest filmography, but that collaboration with Ennio Morricone, nothing's ever been like it. Nothing. I mean, the closest would be like Herzog and Popol Vuh. I think that's his name. They did, Aguirre, The Wrath of God, and then they did Nosferatu. And I know John Williams, whatever, Spielberg, but look at this. This film is so breathtakingly beautiful and tragic, exploratory and risk-taking and fun. And I could do it. I could talk about this movie for hours. But Sergio Leone, my number 4. I mean, the first time I heard or saw the images from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, it was like, I feel like I was like just back in some different alternate version of history, right? Which I guess is part of the point of his films. And those, gosh, maybe it's as much like Ennio Morricone as anything, but man, like the close-ups, the shots of the eyes, like his use of shadow with Charles Bronson in that bar in Once Upon a Time. I mean, just nobody did a Western like him. And very different than John Ford, right? Man. Going through all these directors just makes me want to go watch all their films again. What a treat. Okay. This is... Okay, number 3. I think I've got the last 3 in the right order. Now, if you want to talk about maybe the best technical, maybe the best, with the technical side of things, and the best with, just images that can be, that are just so legendary, I would say this guy, Andrei Tarkovsky. And this is sometimes, I'm always back and forth with this in another film, for my favorite black and white film of all time. One of my favorite films. This is usually within my top 3, 4, 5, 6. Andrei Tarkovsky, his films are very philosophical. They're very spiritual, unlike Bela Tarr, who specifically said my films aren't meant to be that spiritual. Correct me if I'm wrong, Internet, but I'm pretty sure that's how he said that. This is such, Stalker, the science fiction about the zone. I mean, nothing's ever been done like that. Where it's just here's this zone that we can debate its meaning on a philosophical, existential, these films make me feel connected to a larger and greater world than myself, which I find really hard to do at this age. And he can just do that with images. I mean, nobody can do it like that. And I'm thinking about each of these directors as I'm going through them, what was their one strength that they had above everyone else? I think he's the most spiritual of directors. The most poetic of directors, Tarkovsky. And I've seen all of his films, all of his feature-length films. They're all great. And I want all of them in the Criterion Collection. But this is my favorite. What's your favorite Tarkovsky? Is it this? Maybe you like Nostalgia? Nostalgia has a beautiful shot early on in the church. Sometimes whenever you're talking about great directors and you think about their images, you just stop and you're like, I'm so glad we have film restoration. I'm so glad that guys like my number 2 here were so adamant about preserving films. And you think about like the very opening shots of Stalker and the use of color, man. And who am I talking about? Restoring films. None other than Martin Scorsese, number 2. I really like Taxi Driver, Goodfellas. I've seen that stuff so many times. This film, Casino. And I know like not everybody's quite as big on The Departed, but I watched at least part of that movie every year. Raging Bull, Joe Pesci, like his movies are like nothing has ever been edited better anywhere than Goodfellas. That movie is so, go back and watch it. And I challenge you to find a movie that's better and more tightly edited than that film. Love it. Everything. They're so, oh gosh, almost dropped my Casino here. They're so entertaining and instructive and fun. And they, you can tell, here's a guy who has spent a long time in his life watching, how many films has he watched? And it comes through in each of his motion pictures. Even the ones that aren't as great as others. The love of film is, Mean Streets, there's so much spirit and life and vitality. Similarly, you think about David Lynch, Eraserhead, the fun in that, the exploration, that's in Mean Streets. This is a guy who is hungry for cinema. He comes up with Killers of the Flower Moon. Like that should have been nowhere in his arsenal. He just pulls it out. Because Scorsese is truly one of our best. And I think he's the most inspirational. Or not inspiration. Yeah. How do I want to say? He's like the most important person to films and movie history. Because he's done so much with restoration and, films like Cat People. Never knew of that before him, right? He has introduced me to as many films, if not more, than Ebert. Love his films. What's your favorite Scorsese? Tell me in the comments. But finally, if you know me and you know my channel, or you ever talk to me about movies, you would know my number 1 already. But if you didn't, and you're here for the first time, thanks for coming, subscribe, click the thumbs up. But absolutely no one did movies like Yasujiro Ozu. Wim Wenders, on his Letterboxd, I think it was like a top 4. Talk about your top 4. And that's a director who very nearly could have made my list as well. My top 10. He was just like, the films of Yasujiro Ozu, that's my top 4. Like, it's like, make that a slot, right? Like, just Ozu. Tokyo Story. Andrei Rublev, Tarkovsky, and then Tokyo Story, Ozu. Like, those are my 2 that I always have kind of in that. My favorite black and white film. An Autumn Afternoon. Gorgeous film. Tender, touching films about family drama. This is the stuff our lives really are about, right? Like, how we interact with others on a very personal level over very small matters and big ones and divorces and like deaths in the family. There are themes that are so deep and just like Late Spring. I think I've seen this film 2 or 3 times now. Setsuko Hara, my favorite actress, in part because of, her role in these movies with Ozu, riding the bicycle. He could get so much out of just putting a camera right in front of an actor and letting them do their thing. His use of pillow shots, his confidence in the small, the simple, giving us just enough time after deeply emotional moments in masterpieces like Tokyo Story with these pillow shots, and we just don't even... You're left wondering how much more human you could feel after watching his films. What a director. And I've seen a whole lot of his movies, and they're always so good. There's some that are like really good, and there's some that are masterpieces. That's usually how it goes with Ozu. It's like either much better than most movies, or it's a masterpiece. That's just how it goes. Like, what's your favorite Ozu? My favorite would still be Tokyo Story, but Late Spring would be very close behind that. And then I think on my top 100, it's like, I've got 10 of his movies on there. Wow. Gosh, I love Ozu. I need to watch another Ozu again. It's been at least a week or 2, so got to get on that. Anyway, that's my top 10 directors. Tell me yours. Give me a list. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where you agree. Click like. Click subscribe. Thanks for watching. Cody in the Cinema.